Ooh. Caitlin Clark is not happy. Caitlin Clark absolutely slammed Stephanie White for continuing to sub her out. She's sick and tired of Stephanie White's sabotage. She's sick and tired of this BS minutes restriction, which I believe is a stats limit. They are trying to limit what she can do in the statistical category. Caitlin Clark absolutely let Stephanie White have it, along with the referees, man. She is sick and tired of this nonsense.
Basketball coaches usually expect halftime to end with adjustments, not with the entire internet grabbing popcorn. One brutally honest post-game interview, one controversial missed call, and one debate about Indiana's identity suddenly had WNBA fans acting like FBI body language experts. Was this simply the frustration of competitors desperate to win? Or did America just witness the first public crack in the Fever's biggest partnership? The answer is far more surprising and far more complicated than the headlines would have you believe.
Steph talked a lot after the Las Vegas game about consistency, and it seems like it wasn't there tonight. Just what do you guys need to do to become a more consistent team?
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference was we played right into what they wanted to do. They're last in the league in pace. We're first in the league in pace. We scored 75 points. They scored 88. We just did what they wanted to. We didn't dominate in that area, but it's also hard to play with pace when, you're not creating turnovers, you're not getting deflections, you're not getting stops. I feel like
there is something strangely fascinating about watching a superstar ask for less control instead of more, especially in an era when coaches obsess over slowing games down, limiting mistakes, and squeezing every possession until it looks like a chess match.
Hey, y'all better be glad I wasn't live tonight. All the Caitlin Clark haters, y'all been having y'all fun with Caitlin for the past few weeks. Oh, y'all been having a blast. Oh, Caitlin is trash. Look at these numbers. Oh, she's terrible. ESPN, Fox. Hey, all of y'all, man, I want y'all on your networks tomorrow. All right, I don't care if it's Saturday. I don't care. I want y'all on your networks, and I want y'all to talk about this record-breaking 40-point plus 10 assist game.
Caitlin Clark has spent almost her entire basketball life proving that chaos, when it is controlled by the right player, is not chaos at all. It is an opportunity disguised as speed. That is why one of the biggest talking points after Indiana's latest game had nothing to do with the final score. It revolved around a simple message Clark delivered afterward.
We are in, I don't even want to say year 3 of the Caitlin Clark experience, because we're really in year 5 of it.
Yeah, we're in year 5.
We're in year 3 of the WNBA Caitlin Clark experience. It didn't really become a thing to talk about more broadly until that game with Angel Reese. And then it went farther and farther. But I will say this part. It kind of reached its apex once she reached the WNBA. These 3 years, the conversations are the same, except dumber and worse. It's like nothing.
The fever in her eyes was not playing basketball that made them dangerous in the first place. It was not a mysterious quote filled with hidden meanings or carefully rehearsed public relations language.
I'm letting you guys know right now, the next 24 hours for Caitlin Clark ain't finna be so good, man. Judging off what everybody is saying online with her outbreaks during the game, it ain't a good look, man. Now, to her defense, we've been seeing a lot of buffoonery from the WNBA referees. What would you do if somebody literally altering the way you play the game and they just letting people assault you, literally letting people assault you?
Clark spoke the way she usually does, with the straightforward honesty that has followed her from Iowa into the WNBA. She pointed to turnovers, admitted the offense lost its rhythm, and repeatedly returned to one word that kept surfacing throughout her media session: pace. According to Clark, Indiana allowed the game to drift into the exact style their opponent wanted. Instead of pushing the ball after rebounds, attacking before defenses became organized, and creating transition opportunities, the Fever spent too much time playing at someone else's speed. For a team built around one of the best open-court playmakers basketball has seen in years, that was almost like buying a sports car only to leave it parked in traffic. Clark explained it in the simplest possible terms. Indiana needed to defend, secure rebounds, and run. That sequence has become almost a mission statement for the Fever whenever they look their best. Defense creates transition. Transition creates space. The irony is that everyone watching already knows this. Fans know it. Opposing coaches definitely know it. Television analysts mention it almost every broadcast. Yet basketball has a funny habit of drifting away from what works whenever pressure begins to build. Teams start walking the ball up the floor. Possessions become cautious. Players hesitate for just half a second longer than usual. Those tiny delays are enough to erase the advantages that separate good offenses from elite ones.
Restriction. They keep finding every reason to sub her off. The girl can't catch a rhythm to save her life, and it's affecting her game at this point. Take the minutes restriction off, free Caitlin Clark, or just trade her and let her go do her thing elsewhere.
Caitlin, for you, what do you think they did just defensively to make it a little tougher tonight than usual?
Yeah, I mean, I got some good looks. Obviously, it's hard. I think I played 10 minutes in the first half. It's just struggling a little.
Anyone who has followed Clark throughout her career knows she rarely keeps those emotions bottled up. She competes with incredible intensity, and that competitiveness often shows itself immediately after controversial moments. Sometimes that means animated conversations with officials. Sometimes it means visible frustration after missed assignments by teammates. Other times, it simply appears in the way she attacks the next possession with even greater determination. That competitive fire has become one of the defining traits of her career. It also explains why every visible reaction from Clark instantly becomes a national conversation. Modern sports are no longer judged only by the final score. They are judged through slow-motion clips, social media debates, and endless discussions that often grow far larger than the game itself. That reality creates an unusual challenge for everyone connected to the Indiana Fever. Stephanie White is not simply coaching basketball games. She is coaching under a microscope where every substitution, timeout, and offensive possession becomes part of a larger debate about how the franchise should build around its biggest star.
Maybe you guys know Caitlin Clark was actually punched in the throat by Alyssa Thomas. And Rhodes actually normally covers this stuff on Black and White Sports 2. Go ahead and subscribe. But Kathy Engelberg, the so-called commissioner of the WNBA, she was not going to suspend Alyssa Thomas. It actually took Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, to force her to punish Alyssa Thomas.
White has consistently emphasized discipline, defensive effort, execution, and making the right basketball decisions. Those priorities are hardly controversial because nearly every successful coach values them. Championship teams usually defend well, limit mistakes, and avoid unnecessary risks. The interesting discussion begins when those traditional coaching principles meet a player whose greatest strength is creating opportunities that look risky until they suddenly become spectacular. Clark has spent years proving that extraordinary vision sometimes requires extraordinary freedom. Many of her signature plays begin with passes that most players would never attempt. To Clark, they represent calculated advantages. That difference in philosophy has fueled countless conversations ever since she entered the professional game. Some observers believe great coaches should ask stars to adapt completely to existing systems. Others argue equally passionately that generational talents deserve systems specifically designed around what makes them unique. Neither position is automatically right or wrong. History actually offers examples supporting both arguments. Some legendary players flourished by fitting into established structures, while others transformed entire organizations after coaches redesigned offenses to maximize their gifts. Magic Johnson changed expectations for point guards. Stephen Curry stretched defenses beyond imagination.
Oh, right? Nobody has ever done this, dog. Nobody has ever done this but Caitlin Clark herself. Man, y'all better get out here and talk about it. Spread the news exactly how y'all was spreading the news about her yelling at a ref, about her looking trash. Yeah, I need that same energy.
Nikola Jokic forced teams to rethink how centers could initiate offense. None of those players succeeded because they played exactly like everyone before them. They succeeded because their organizations eventually embraced what made them different. That is why Clark's comments about pace resonated so strongly. They were not simply observations about one frustrating evening. They touched on a larger basketball conversation that has surrounded Indiana throughout the season. What style gives this roster its highest ceiling? Those questions have become almost as important as wins and losses because they shape what Indiana could become over the next several years. Interestingly, Clark herself offered part of the answer during that same media session. She admitted she missed good opportunities, acknowledged taking difficult shots, and evaluated her own performance with the same honesty she used when discussing the team's overall pace. She even joked that she hoped she would not have to keep playing limited minutes while continuing to work her way back physically. That willingness to criticize herself often disappears amid the louder headlines. Critics sometimes portray Clark as someone constantly pointing fingers elsewhere, yet her interviews usually reveal something much different.
Stand up for yourself. So we all gonna say that Caitlin Clark is wrong for going off on the referees when players have been assaulting her the whole time. Caitlin's from a town in Iowa. Iowa's not a very, I don't know, like physical place, violent place, I should say, like that. But for this young lady to be enduring what she going through is beyond freaking me. And it's getting to the point now where Caitlin is taking matter into her own hands, whether that affect her brand or not. She's standing up for herself, so I can't do nothing but
She regularly begins by evaluating her own decisions before expanding the conversation to the team's overall performance. That balance helps explain why teammates continue supporting her despite the enormous attention she receives. The Fever understands something outsiders occasionally forget. Their biggest challenge is not handling Caitlin Clark's personality. It is learning how to maximize Caitlin Clark's basketball genius while building an identity capable of winning consistently against experienced WNBA opponents. And that challenge is only becoming more fascinating as the season unfolds. The fascinating part is that none of these conversations exist in isolation. Every possession Indiana plays is now examined through two different lenses. One focuses on whether the Fever won or lost that particular game. It asks whether Indiana is fully prepared to embrace the style of basketball that made Caitlin Clark one of the most recognizable players in the sport before she ever stepped onto a WNBA court. The encouraging news for Fever fans is that there have already been stretches this season that hint at what the future could look like. Whenever Indiana strings together defensive stops, rebounds with urgency, and immediately pushes the ball up the floor, the entire atmosphere changes.
Nobody has moved off their square in any way, it appears. It's just become, like, as somebody who's just kind of not invested in the whole thing, it's really tough to watch. I kind of wanted to get involved in this, and then I did it for a little bit, and I was like, man, y'all can
I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to play anymore. No. Yeah, it's interesting, and I would argue that it hasn't not moved. I would argue that it's intensified because now you've got the federal government getting involved. Right? I mean, so essentially what you have here is, to me, Caitlin Clark was always an avatar. Right.
Defenders suddenly find themselves retreating instead of attacking. Shooters receive cleaner looks because they help defenders hesitate. Bigs run harder knowing the reward could be an easy basket before the defense is set. Even possessions that do not end with Clark taking the shot often begin because she forced the defense into impossible decisions within the first few seconds of the possession. That is what makes her influence so unique. Her impact cannot always be measured by points or assists alone. Sometimes the biggest contribution comes from the panic she creates before the offense has even begun. That does not mean Stephanie White's philosophy should be dismissed. Coaching is often about finding the balance between freedom and accountability, and experienced coaches know that uncontrolled basketball can lose games just as quickly as overly cautious basketball can. White has repeatedly stressed defensive execution, rebounding, and limiting mistakes because those fundamentals remain the backbone of winning teams regardless of era. The challenge is blending those principles with the creativity that Clark naturally brings every time she touches the ball. Finding that balance may ultimately define the Fever's future. Great organizations rarely force everyone to choose between structure and creativity. Instead, they discover ways to let each strengthen the other.
My God.
Like, this is one of the craziest games I have ever watched in the WNBA. And if you guys agree, and there's 1,000 of you guys in here on this stream, let's get this to 500 likes. And if you guys are watching this in a video, let's get this shit to 1,000 likes. Because on a minutes restriction, Caitlin Clark put up 45 points, 10 assists.
The best offenses in basketball history have usually combined disciplined spacing with players capable of producing moments no playbook could ever design. Indiana's opportunity is to build that same combination rather than treating those ideas as opposites. Another important piece of this story is the response from Clark's teammates. Throughout the season, players have consistently spoken about communication, accountability, and continuing to grow together. Every successful team experiences emotional moments during a long season. Competitive athletes are passionate by nature, and disagreements about execution, timing, or decision-making happen in nearly every locker room across professional sports. What separates contenders from everyone else is not the absence of those moments, but the ability to learn from them without allowing frustration to become division. It is simply the reality of being one of the biggest stars in American sports today. Every camera follows her. Every microphone captures her comments. Every expression becomes material for endless debate. In many ways, that attention reflects something positive about where women's basketball stands today. A few years ago, regular season WNBA discussions rarely dominated national sports conversations. Today, millions of fans eagerly analyze offensive systems, coaching adjustments, player development, and franchise direction. The league has earned that attention through years of remarkable talent, and Clark's arrival has introduced an entirely new audience eager to experience it.
Now, these WNBA players, man, they really want to be victims. They do. They don't want to get paid. They want to be victims. They were actually screaming about, hey, we need to make more money. And then Caitlin Clark comes along and takes the league by storm. She's the most popular player in the game. Dare I say, the most popular player they've ever had. Because before she came along, folks, nobody was watching.
That growing spotlight also creates higher expectations. Fans no longer tune in hoping merely for competitive basketball. They expect unforgettable performances, dramatic finishes, incredible passing, logo three-pointers, and personalities willing to compete with genuine emotion. Clark represents all of those qualities, which explains why every game featuring Indiana feels larger than just another date on the schedule. Perhaps the biggest takeaway from this entire discussion is surprisingly simple. The Fever does not need Caitlin Clark to become a different player. They need to continue discovering the best version of themselves around the player they already have. That process takes patience, honest conversations, and a willingness from everyone involved to evolve together. Championship teams are rarely completed overnight. She pointed toward details that she believes will help Indiana play its best basketball. Defend aggressively, secure rebounds, push the pace, and trust what makes the team special. Those ideas sound remarkably straightforward, yet executing them consistently against elite competition remains one of basketball's greatest challenges. As the season continues, every game will provide another opportunity to see how that identity develops. Will Indiana continue leaning into the fast-paced style that has produced some of its most explosive stretches? Can the Fever combine defensive discipline with offensive freedom? Can one of the league's youngest cores grow together quickly enough to become a legitimate postseason threat?